Um, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's trade review and live trading session. So, as always, if you have questions, please place those in the area provided, and I'll get back to you either during the course of this session or later this afternoon. I think the easiest way to start today, obviously it's Friday today, there isn't a great deal of data around. There are some earnings reports. I'm trying to think which ones are the most important today. I think Intel is probably one of the companies that is reporting today, and they will have their impacts on the respective markets. It's been a good week for me. I have one trade left open, which is gold, which is about 40 pips against me at the moment. But that's the only trade that I have open. I have one pending order, one limit sell order, just above the 34,000 level. I think it was at 34,005. Just to see if we get a lift into. Or immediately after, into and immediately after the opening bell, and we see a push to that level. Obviously we're trading around 33,960 at the moment, so an attempt to get above 34,000 seems to be almost definite. A lot of speculation around at the moment about what the Fed will do next week. So I think we're in a phase where we're going to see the ranges, or notwithstanding any extra information coming into the market, we're going to see a phase of the markets where the ranges are going to be quite tight, unless there is something to add into this equation. Obviously, Fed officials or Fed speak is all blacked out at the moment in advance of the meeting next week. So as I've written about, I suppose, pretty much every day for the last week or 10 days, the big decision now, or the expectation, is that we're going to see a 25 basis point increase, and there has been a series of data which suggests that is definitely a possibility, but whether or not Powell will waver and pull back on his fairly aggressive rate hike policy or not is yet to be seen. I probably sit in the school where I think he is probably likely to continue, and therefore, my preference is certainly to enter this market from the short side, because maybe we won't see that 25 basis point increase. We'll see one more of 50, and that fits in with some of the things that we're hearing from some of the Fed officials a week or so ago, where they suggested that we get to the terminal rate quicker. I think there is a general understanding in the market at this stage that the rates are going to be higher for longer, but it's whether or not, I suppose, we get there in smaller steps or maybe one or two big steps. And the reason why I sit where I do on that particular argument goes back to comments that I will have made over the last few weeks, just in relation to adjusting your policy, or adjusting a rate hike policy, tends not to work, and certainly stalling or pausing definitely doesn't work, and that's been proven historically. So I certainly don't think we're going to see anything like that. So we have about 4.5 minutes or so to the opening bell. Gold, as I said to you, I'm short, is against me, and gold has got quite choppy over the last 30 to 40 minutes or so, maybe even a little bit longer than that. Now, I traded gold, or the gold trade that I have left open is at 1924.20. There was quite an expansive range on gold yesterday, traded as high as 1940, all the way back down to, traded as high as 1949, went all the way back down to about 1918 before settling around the 1930 level. This morning it's been below 1920, it's been up to about 1935, so we are seeing quite expanded ranges in the gold market. Ideally, or what I'm looking for is for that to sell off during the remainder of this afternoon and hopefully give me an opportunity to take profit on that trade. Because it's been such a good week, only really 2 losing trades that I wanted to talk to you about in a few minutes. It's silly to take too much risk this afternoon. Protect a little bit the profit that I have. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to trade, but I'm certainly going to be a little bit more cautious and look to keep the hard-earned pips that we see so far. So open trade on gold. Ideally, I'm looking for these levels that we traded yesterday. So I'm just going to put some crosshairs on here. So these are levels we traded today. Just widen this out to a 15-minute chart, and you can see where we went to yesterday around that 1948. 1950 level, an eye to keep an eye on, or a level to keep an eye on over the next few weeks. If we push back up towards that 1950 level, ideally looking to get short around there. But I'm hoping that we see a pullback to 1920, which is where my TP is on that particular trade. So I'll go around the markets in a bit more detail after we've looked at the results. But just looking at the Dow for now, kind of holding around this 33,960 level. In contrast to the last few days, we haven't really seen a great deal of spoofing or attempts to manipulate the market before the opening bell today. Certainly more rife over the last few days, but you can see here that we're trading in a very narrow range, and I think that will go back to a difference of opinion on whether or not we are going to get above 34,000. Also, it's an interpretation of the data that we saw yesterday, which will still be disseminated by the markets, and people will be looking for that next move. As I've said, I don't expect the markets to go too much higher with the Fed meeting next week, although maybe some of the more aggressive speculators will, based on their appraisal of what the Fed will do next week, may be prepared to get a little bit more involved this afternoon and push the market in one direction or the other. But for the time being, as you can see here, we do have a reasonably tidy range. What I'm looking for ideally is a few buyers to come in around the open, possibly push a couple of stops, and see an open above 34,000, or fairly a swift move above 34,000 that eventually peters out, and we see the market settle back to trade lower. That's what I'm looking for. Whether or not that's going to be what happens, we'll know in the next 15 to 20 seconds or so. But for the time being, the Dow is trading in a very tight range. So we've just ticked over there, and a little bit of downward pressure coming into the market immediately after the open. So I'll just widen or I'll start to look across all of the markets for now. I don't want to get too involved around here. I am definitely looking for a move above 34,000 before I would consider getting short. But again, we're still in this very narrow trading range that we've seen over quite a period, or certainly over the last hour and a half in this particular market. Still a little bit of selling pressure coming in there, down to 925, 926. These levels didn't hold yesterday, I think there's certainly a bigger chance of that holding today, but we'll see as the remainder of this session goes on. So nothing doing for the time being. Gold is that touch lower, hasn't moved significantly lower, just around that 1927 level, and we see with all of the markets, just as we look around these in general now, and I may have lost the price feed for a period here, but looking around the markets, we're so I think we hopefully should get the price feed back shortly. Yeah, so gold has ticked down to 1926. It's about 20 pips against me. For the week that I've had, there is potential to maybe take a little bit of a hit on that one and be done with the trade. But hopefully we'll see a move back down to 1920. That's what I would like to see. I'm getting closer to break even there, 1924. And change at the moment. So I'll come back and look at that in a few minutes, and we are at break even now. So for those of you who want to get out of that particular trade, if you are in that trade, now presents that opportunity. For me, I'm going to hold it a little bit and see if we do go a little bit lower. As I'm talking, the Dow is moving slightly higher, up back towards that 34,000 level. I do have the limit sell in there. I'll probably hold on to that for the next 15 to 20 minutes. If not executed, then I'll probably look to close that. Just going back to the general markets there, having a look at the trades for this week. Obviously, as it stands at the moment, with that one trade open, positive 841 pips, so really good week. And to be honest, January has been a good month. Been slow and steady up to now, but this is a really good return, and hopefully I'll be holding on to the majority of that for the remainder of today, maybe building on it slightly. There are three losing trades there. One that was stopped out, the DAX trade, or I manually stopped that trade, and the other two trades, the two Dow trades, cost over 600 pips, just those two trades. So had those. And if you remember, on Wednesday the market actually closed back significantly above those levels, so they would have been in profit. But the trades didn't survive the dip of when the market went lower. Was stopped out around that 33,300 level. I think the market went possibly 40 pips lower, and then rebounded the best part of 450 points. So if it hadn't been for those two trades on Wednesday, it would have been a rather exceptional week. What could I have done different with those two trades? The obvious thing is to make sure that they had worthwhile stops in them. I was looking for the market to bounce. Had I closed the trades, I would more than likely have still traded from the long side, the stop was set a little bit tighter, or quite a bit tighter than maybe it should have been that day. I mean, the net loss for the day in pip wise is 343 pips, so nothing substantial. But it would have been an exceptional week had I held through that dip, which is my intention. But the stop triggered it. And obviously there was a significant rally back to the upside. Just on those two trades going back to break even, there would have been an extra 600 pips on that particular or on this week's results. In terms of the rest of the trades, you've seen those as they've come through during the course of this week. There hasn't been a great deal of risk taken. The number of positions kept open has been kept to a minimum, and hopefully we can continue with this trend over the next couple of weeks. So I'll just close the results down. So gold has gone down to 1922 and change. It's been slightly lower, so there's certainly opportunities for you to take profit there, and I'll certainly do that towards the end of this session. The remainder of the markets aren't moving too far. We haven't been above 34,000 just yet. The currencies are reasonably stable. But what I think I'll do, I don't see any questions coming through, so you must all be very happy with the week that's been in play here. What I think I'll do is I'll finish up here, go back and close this gold trade, and then think about how I want to proceed for the remainder of the afternoon. As I've said, I think my preference is to get short above that 34,000 level if that level is breached. But for the time being, I think I'll close this gold trade down and then get back to you on Telegram. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back on Telegram shortly, and we hopefully will we will end out